It's Monday, December 16th, 6:30 p.m. I call to order this regular board meeting of the Fairfield Community School District Board of Directors to be held at 6:30 p.m. on the third Monday of each month. The meeting is open to the public and the public is encouraged to attend. Time is provided in the meeting for public input. The mission of the Fairfield Community School Board of Directors is One Fairfield, where relationships foster growth, protect learners, unlock individual potential, and serve every student every day. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yep. Mark Porter.
Here.
Ty Ward.
Present.
Christy Kessel.
Here.
Megan Dowd Robbins.
Here.
Mark Thornton.
Here.
Deborah Williamson.
Here.
Dave Eastburn.
Here.
All present.
Thanks. Do we have any perfections to the agenda? Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I have, Madam Chairman, I have a motion to remove a single item from the Secretary's bills to be addressed later in the meeting. It is the purchase from Social Sprouts, single user Social Sleuthers video library for $140.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion approved to remove it and to kind of.
Yep.
And now we need to have a motion to approve the
Amendment.
amended agenda.
So moved. Second.
Porter and Thornton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion carries. All right, moving on to, we're going to start off with a celebration of success. So we have the FFA sponsor and students here to present.
Who's up first? Go ahead. Good evening. Thank you for having us. We're going to kind of take turns so that they can learn how to present on their own. Okay.
Wait, do I just click it?
Okay.
What have we been up to? We've done soil judging, National FFA Convention, swine judging, downtown assessment, beef weigh-in, and some pens visits. Now I'm going to talk about sub-district and district soils. Since last year we had the team go to nationals, we had to start fresh with a new team. We had 8 people, 3 coaches. The team consisted of Aiden Porter, Brock Atwood, Xander Gallison, Jackson Hollander as one, Finn McCluskey, Sebastian Twee, Peyton Freeman, and Taylor Miller was the second team. The coaches were myself, Carson Lovelady, and Jason Steele. We had one team placed in top 10 for sub-districts and districts.
Alright, at National Convention, on our way there, we stopped at the Lincoln Memorial, and it was a big museum, and we walked around it, and there were a lot of signs and statues that we learned about, and then me and a few other people, we watched a film about like Lincoln's whole life, which is pretty cool. But at National Convention, we went to a few opening ceremonies where we had a few keynote speakers talk about their life story and how they went through like struggles to get to where they were today. One was Temple Grandin, and she's really big in the ag industry, and we got to learn about how she has autism and how she views the world differently than we do. And we just got to learn how she struggled with her autism, but how she like was able to build off of it and learn with pictures to build what she did. And then there we also got to talk to different colleges and businesses, and you could talk to them about like basically anything you wanted. Talk to them about how they ended up getting there, what college or schooling they went to get to that job, and just talk to different colleges about what they offer and why we should go there. And then that happened about late October, and we took 12 people up there.
I have to click it. Did I skip one?
Animal science.
There we go. Okay. Animal science class, we got to learn about breeding plans,
and we got to learn a little bit about Tim Hill Granite. Ellie's husband Wade brought some pigs in for us to judge one day, and then we got to go to livestock judging, and then we got to do a lot of different like handling things. So.
For swine judging, we took a group of high schoolers and 8th graders over to Des Moines to judge some swine, and it was a lot of fun. We got to meet people from different schools, and out of all the people, Wyatt Lovelady placed 8th out of 423, Adam Porter placed 20th, and in the junior division, Sydney Shepard placed 19th out of 120.
All right, so we had 3 students attend the downtown assessment, Sydney Shremsford, myself, and Wyatt Lovelady, and we just basically talked about like what we think the youth wants in this town, and like what Wyatt brought up a good point of how like we don't really have a place for youth to hang out in this town, so we talked about like how we could input a place for kids to hang out, and just about a bunch of other stuff that would improve the community.
Next up, I told the 2 that are in my class that didn't want to talk that I would talk. This week and last week, I approached Mrs. Mann about getting into the classrooms at Pence. Those of you that don't know, I substituted in Pence for a really long time. I've probably long-term sub for most of your kids at some point. But it's very important for me to be able to connect what we do at the high school down at the lower elementary levels. The best thing that I have is that I have a relationship with those kids already, and so I want to build on that. And so we went to 4 classes last week. We have 4 tomorrow, and then 3 on Wednesday, and 1 more on Washington on Thursday. But I contacted Angie Atwood and asked her, what do you have that you could give me? Because everybody's talking about Christmas, that there's different types of evergreens, and so we talked about what type of spruce or fir, and we brought different examples, and then we had a little activity for them. The kids enjoyed it. We walked around the room, we colored with them, and even though it was only 15 minutes, they enjoyed it very much. There's Mrs. Bowman's class. We didn't have time to get through the entire activity, but I made sure to include one that they had to use their scissor cutting skills and whether they colored in the line or not and all that stuff. So she had time later on within the next day or so, and then she sent us this picture. So I am not very good at taking pictures, so I'm glad that she took those. So, okay. What we have planned, like I said, we have more elementary visits planned. We have CDEs and LDEs in early February. Those of you that don't know, CDEs are career development events. So the soils judging would be considered a career development event. We have ag sales, ag broadcasting, job interviews, conduct of meetings, parliamentary procedure. So we learned that. We're not there yet, but you guys are pretty good. And then creed speaking, which is a freshman that memorizes the FFA creed by E.M. Tiffany. So I am looking for a freshman. I have 2 in the room that will be working on that. FFA week will be planned. It is always sometime in February. This year it is the 17th through the 21st. We always have a pancake breakfast in the shop, so you will all be invited. Make sure you come forget pancakes, bacon, all the good stuff. National Convention, or not National Convention, Iowa FFA Convention is April 14th through the 15th. We will have 1 state degree applicant. The Iowa FFA degree is the highest degree that can be bestowed upon an FFA member by the Iowa FFA Association. Only 5% of members within the state of Iowa receive this degree. Was it last year, your sister? Brianna Steele got it last year. So Josh Meinert is applying for it this year, as well as to be in the state band. So we'll send that in next week. We have livestock judging contest, FFA banquet, and then our county fair is the 24th through the 30th. Okay, greenhouse update. It is done. I did just place an order for all of this stuff. Hopefully, I was really hoping I could like have spring break and not have to come to the school. That's not going to happen. I'm going to be living in this place. So I have a plant science or horticulture class in the 3rd trimester. My goal is for that class to run it like a business. They will work on developing a business plan. They will set the the plant sales. They will schedule workers. They're going to be setting the prices so that we can figure out the margins. And so after we get everything done, we will do essentially a closeout just like we do as a business. And we will kind of figure out what's the busiest days, what sold the best, what sold out fastest, and those different types of things. That's my goal for that class and the greenhouse. And so my last bullet point is this is an evolving plan, depending on how it goes and what the class has an interest in. We may reevaluate the total goal in the greenhouse, but that is my goal and that's what I'm gonna push for. So, and then lastly, looking ahead to next year in the classroom, I have been approved to teach these 5 courses for the following year. I'll be working with the guidance counselors and Mrs. Mann as to how we're going to lay these out that way that all students will have the ability to take them in their career. So this is, again, we got to get the whole 4-year plan figured out, but these are kind of on the docket and what I feel comfortable teaching. So does anybody have any questions for us that I can answer?
Do you have any specific plans for the greenhouse, whether it's flowers or vegetables or?
I purchased a lot of annual plants. That's what the kids in one of the classes wanted to do, and so that was the goal. We are going to be starting some seeds after the first of the year in the classroom, vegetables. So hopefully those take off. They did not have root starters of vegetable plants, so I guess we're gonna have to see what can germinate and what doesn't. So that's what we have for now. And hanging baskets, I did get those, so.
I might be interested in talking to you about buying plants for the city, buying annuals for the city's hanging baskets.
Okay, well, I'm hopeful that they're all gonna live. So, I don't know, hopefully it'll be just fine. So, okay. He's over there. I just leave this here. Okay, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
That was great.
You guys don't have to feel like you have to sit here the whole meeting either. It's okay if you want to be done. But you can. It's okay if you want to.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Next, we'll move into our focus on learning. We have Mrs. Mallory Mann, the high school principal, here to share some updates on high school science changes and building progress.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be the first guinea pig. So we're looking at shifting our science programming for next year and moving away from the integrated model and moving back into the traditional standalone classes, biology, chemistry, and physics. We'll still offer anatomy and physiology and forensics, and then we'll also offer forensics 2 as well, so that'll be an addition. I did link in, if you get these, I did link in the curriculum guide for you guys as well. There we go. So it'll take 3 years to fully implement, and that's for 2 reasons. The first reason is so that all of our students still have access to all of the NGSS standards recommended by the state. It's also so that the students don't have any duplicated material. So this first slide here is what our students currently take. So if you look, our first semester, or first half, so first trimester, for integrated 1 is largely chemistry and physics, and the second half is biology. Integrated 2 is more, actually a lot of integrated 2 is more on the physics, chemistry side, and integrated 3 is more of the biology side. So moving to next year, what that would look like, so we would offer biology for all freshmen. That's what they would take their freshman year. And then moving forward, so our sophomores would take integrated 2, our juniors would still take integrated 3. When you go back and look through here, you can also see the units and standards that each of those address. Then year 2, we'd offer biology and chemistry, so that'd be for freshmen and sophomores, and then our juniors would still take integrated 3. And then the following year, is that 27, 28, this sounds really far away, but it's not really. And we'll have biology, chemistry, and physics. And again, our students would still have access to anatomy and physiology and those forensics classes as well as advanced chemistry.
What is the significance of the difference between those two, and why did we make the transition to integrated? Or do you know when we made that transition?
Actually, I think from what I read, it looks like they started the integrated model in 2016.
Okay.
And that was a push, as NGSS standards kind of came out. My understanding is it was because it was really a focus on implementing earth and space science into all aspects of science content, and now they're kind of able to go both ways. So I think at the time, my understanding is it was a necessity to go to that integrated model, and now it's not as much of a necessity. And talk about district goal progress, both for our student success and belonging. So in terms of student success, our building goal is by the end of the academic year, 100% of our students will graduate either enrolled, enlisted, or employed. Kind of steps towards that, our attendance rate is up 2% from this time last year. We're at 91.6 at the end of first trimester last year. This year we are at 93.6 at the end of first trimester. Perhaps the biggest change, we had at the end of first trimester, we had 22 total students that had Fs in the first trimester, which is a 50% decrease from the amount of students who had Fs at the end of the first trimester last year. 15 of those 22 students with Fs were also identified as chronically absent. 2 out of 22 of those students were students who didn't pass an academy course. In terms of ELA and math, we had 3 Fs in ELA, 0 Fs in math. We're providing additional intervention time for students that are missing work. ELA department has really spent a lot of time looking at their ISASP and identifying where those gaps are, to kind of boost that stuff up with a big push on grammar. Ms. Unkridge at the freshman level is really, really pushing and is doing a great job identifying those gaps. And then we're also looking to add some incentives for students to want to do well on the ISASP. I think what we're realizing when we kind of look, and we've kind of dug into our data a little bit, we look and we're like, this kid is so smart, why is this where they're performing? And I think it's just because they realize it doesn't tie anything for them. So looking at creating incentives for them there. Currently in our building setup, intervention time we have, so we require any student who falls below 70% due to missing work, they're assigned academic detentions with their individual teachers. It's at the teacher's discretion whether or not they need more intervention after that. We also have students that have several missing assignments or performing low in their classes. I pull them during their study halls and they come and work with me in the office to receive additional assistance as well. I also tutor several students throughout the week. We also have students then with multiple Ds and Fs, both midway through the trimester and at the end, spend time with admin, guidance counselor, and at risk, really just knocking out assignments, and then we take them back to the teachers to have them kind of grade them at that point in time, so that we can get them an extra push to get work in. Things that we're excited about for next year, we're going to build MTSS time into our actual daily schedule, and that time will be used for academic assistance and work around their ICAP or their individual career and academic plan. For student belonging, so our building goal for that is by the end of the academic year, 100% of FHS students will participate in a sport, club, or activity. Currently, we have 83.6% of our students are either currently participating or planning to participating. We administered a student survey that asked what they're currently participating in, their general interests, what they're planning to participate in, what they would like to see added, and any existing barriers that are preventing them from participating. Those barriers that we've really looked at are transportation, work, or not interested in the currently offered activities. A lot of the activities that students are wanting to add, there's a book club on there that's since been added. Ellie Ward had a big hand in getting that started, and they found Miss Tyler is assisting with that. They had their first meeting last month, Bibliophiles Anonymous. They've got their book chosen and have started that. There's like a plant lovers group that people want to see. And a couple of others. Billiards was a big one that had multiple students that want to see that. So now really we're just looking at how we can incorporate some of those activities, whether that be a long-term thing or maybe we're just offering a couple evenings to explore and what that's going to look like. So now our next steps after administering this survey is myself, Mr. Courtwright, and Ms. Wilson are meeting with each individual student who are not currently involved in activities and have identified barriers. So then we're going to address those barriers and create a plan that can help alleviate those and add some more activities for our students.
Do more freshmen participate than seniors, or is there any kind of?
We didn't break down the data that way. I would say we do have a decent amount of freshmen who are involved in things this year, and Mr. Courtwright has shared that percentage is up, but the way I ran the survey, I didn't track it that way. That's really all I have. What questions do you have for me?
I had a question back on the science.
Yeah.
So there's 3 years of science, and then there's how does it?
That are required.
That are required. And so if someone wanted to take a 4th year of science, it would then be
absolutely
anatomy and what would
anatomy, advanced chemistry,
there'd be
and
additional
physics.
Got it. Okay.
They could also take.
We also have concurrent classes.
at the same time.
Oh, they can take them at the same.
You
time.
can.
So each of those is how much time? Like
One trimester. So integrated 1A is one trimester, integrated 1B is another trimester. So they take, typically it's 2 trimesters of the academic year.
Got it.
So is there a way for like freshmen, sophomores now to, like if there's certain areas that say they want to go into, the medical field or whatever, so they can still take advantage of
Absolutely.
this? Okay.
Are any of these like AP classes? Do we have any connection?
At this time, they're not.
So how's this going to be delivered? Is it in class, and is this going to impact staffing? How are you going to staff?
It does. So this will work. So because it's over the 3-year model, we'll have one teacher. Then we'll take really what happens this year. So one teacher teaches integrated 1, one is on integrated 2, one has integrated 3, and anatomy and physiology and advanced chemistry and physics are broken up. So really by implementing this as we phase one out, a teacher picks it up. So while we phase out integrated 1, one of our staff people will be the primary biology teacher. There's also, there are endorsements in there that have to take place. We only have one who can take on the chemistry part. So it's kind of delineated that way as well.
Have they pretty well already decided who's going to do what, or is that still yet to be seen? Or
I think they have an idea, but we haven't discussed necessarily. It'll be kind of talking about each of their strengths and what's going to be best fit there.
In terms of getting to 100%, if things like work, travel, or transportation are hindrances, is there any opportunity for a virtual activity?
We can certainly look at it. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's something I'm opposed to, so that'll be, like I said, that's part of our next steps, or it's just really breaking down what are those barriers and how can we work to eliminate them for kids.
Cool.
With the intervention, I may have said this, I might have missed it. How often are you kind of reviewing and like where the kids are at and kind of?
So we run a DNF report every Monday,
Okay.
and then our SAT team meets on Wednesday mornings, and we identify new students, look at previous ones as well. So we're meeting with students weekly.
Mm-hmm.
The 50% decrease in Fs is great. What kind of things do you think led to that?
I think it was just the intentionality with really making sure that we're spending the time with the kids and figuring out why they're missing the work. We didn't use attendance as an excuse. If they were absent, we required them to make up that work, and if they weren't taking care of it in their class time, we found time for them to do it. Any other questions?
I appreciate you sharing all aspects, you know, not just positive stuff, but stuff information you're working on. It's great to see, you know, all sides of it, I guess, so that we can keep improving.
I'm gonna go to NHS induction.
Thank you, Mrs.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Up next, we have board committee updates. This is the time and place for the committee chairs to provide a 2 to 3 minute update on what the committees have been working on. This is new, I guess. I had one question before we jump in. Is it just a presentation, or are we engaging after the presentation?
I think it would just be sharing the highlights of the work.
That sounds good. Okay.
Yeah.
And then if there's
Think
any
through the
questions, you may
maybe.
ask.
Yeah.
Okay. Dave, you're up.
Thank you.
Finance committee.
So the Finance Committee met on December 9th. It was Ty Ward, Megan, Dad Robbins, myself, Zach, and Evan. We went through our agenda items, and the first thing we did was we approved the committee charter, outlines the scope of the committee's work and how the committee will integrate with the admin team as well as the board to enhance our governance and oversight of our finances, our financial health. We also received the FY24 audit timeline, and we're expecting the draft audit on 12/31 this year. So the progress is much better than we've had in the past. We approved our the 5-year forecast assumptions for our forecast. We went through those and approved those assumptions. And then we had a long budget discussion, and then we ended up directing the superintendent and the SBO to present a budget reduction and realignment plan, which we'll discuss later in the meeting. So we had a good discussion on that, and I appreciate all the committee people being there and Zach and Evan's participation. So that's report. Any questions?
Okay, thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dave. Up next, facilities. Mark.
Yep. So there was 4 of us that met about 10 days ago. Deborah was there, myself was there, Zach and Evan were there. The first thing we talked about creating a facilities charter. Deb actually took care of that. She did a great job of writing that up, and she used Dave's charter from the finance committee as kind of a template of that, but it was more or less just highlighting the purpose of why we meet. The facilities meeting was a lot more widespread than what it was previously when I served on the facilities meeting or facilities committee a few years ago. One of the big things we talked about is the bond issue, and then just kind of discussed different reasons of why we think the bond potentially failed last year and things that we think we maybe need to do differently in the upcoming year if we wanted to push that through. The first thing we talked about is really focusing on seeking feedback from the community who we feel maybe didn't support the bond, and just really seeing what would put them over the edge to want to vote for it. One of the big things we talked about is we really feel like the last couple of years the maintenance crew here at the school have really done a really excellent job of improving the way that they're maintaining the facilities, and then they've also put together like a preventative maintenance program to kind of take care of things. So we talked about, one of the big things to maybe pushing the bond through is maybe publicizing their maintenance goals, maintenance plans, and the way that they do that stuff, and really making the community, realize what we're doing with their tax dollars, and we're doing our very best to try to maintain with the tax dollars that are being entrusted with us. So we also talked about Josh's ticketing program that he uses to track work orders, because I think a few years ago when we came here, there was an inordinate amount of work orders that was on the maintenance crew's shoulders at that time, and Josh really got that narrowed down a little bit. I think the way that they tackle that is they have high priority maintenance items, low priority maintenance items, and then stuff that has to get done you know, in a certain amount of time. I think that they've really tracked the response time on both of those, but the way that Evan had spoke is they're pretty much clearing out all the maintenance items on a daily basis, which was drastically different. I think when we first got on this board, there was tick items out there that have been out there for over a year. So little things like that, they're really doing a good job with. So, and then we also talked about the preventative maintenance programs, and then also the savings, how that can lead to insurance savings, you know, and maybe Evan can fill us in a little bit, you know, if you guys have any questions on exactly how that works. And then we also talked about just the timetable if we do pursue a bond in the upcoming year, the way that we would potentially want to tackle that. At this point in time, you know, we're not gonna, you know, probably, you know, start pushing anything for right now, but we're just gonna kind of sit back here for a little bit and then just decide how we want to tackle this upcoming year throughout the next several months. So that's about the extent of it. Deborah's more than welcome to say anything that she had, and
Yeah, I think we were also looking at a range of bond amounts and consistent with what we were predicting. This last time we were going with not the lowest figure, but the second lowest figure. I don't have it in front of me, but that would be a recommendation, I believe, that we would eventually make to the board, right?
Yep. Yes, I think that really jointly needs to be an entire board decision, you know, but of course we can definitely influence that, but yes, so. Yep. Any questions?
Is there any talk at all or discussion on what we need to do with the middle school just to keep it going? Well, wait on that, or?
Well, throughout the last couple of years, and Evan can kind of allude to this, but the way that I've been interpreted it is that we've been kind of doing the dire items and maybe some of the items that would be a long-term, you know, that aren't necessarily that dire, we maybe have been putting off, but, you know, it's a really tough line to walk the next year or so, because we have to make sure we're doing the best to maintain the facility we have, because at this point, we're at least, 4 or 5 years out with that building.
Yep.
So, and we want to make sure the kids have a good building and a good facility to go to. But by the same token, we also don't want to go in there and pour an astronomical amount of money into it either. So I think a lot of that's going to come down to judgment and how hard we really want to push this bond issue moving forward. So
we did talk in the committee meeting about adding some middle school items to the 5-year capital improvement plan. So when we talk about the 5-year capital improvement plan in an upcoming meeting, Wiley's working on drafting some items that he thinks would be beneficial and potentially have the ability to, if we were to go to bond or get a new building, that we can even potentially move into a future building as well. So
cool.
He's drafting those items.
Great, thank you. Human resources negotiations, Christy?
So we were set to meet with the teachers union last week. That got rescheduled, but we did go ahead and meet Mark, myself, Zach, Deborah, Evan. Evan just kind of gave us an overview of some of his thoughts. I did not bring that folder with me, so I don't have details, so Evan will kind of defer to you if you want to just touch on that briefly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of walked them through, one of the things we negotiated with the teachers last year was to review or update or amend the current salary schedule to make it more transparent and more understandable for everyone involved, to the principal hiring, so that when they're interviewing and they want to offer a teacher, they can point exactly to what the salary is, so the teachers know exactly where they're falling on the scale. So myself spent a little bit of time, took several assumptions that kind of came out of the finance committee and what we're projecting on our growth rate, and tried to put those into a model based on current revenue to decompact the current salary schedule to make it more equitable across the board for everyone. So there was 3 scenarios kind of presented that we're going to look forward to bringing to the teacher committee tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. And I know they're probably working on scenarios too, so just a lot of cost analysis happening at this moment. Did I answer that right?
Mm-hmm. All right.
Any questions? Great. Strategic planning. Tom.
All right, yeah, we met last Monday at 4. Strategic planning's kind of a new one. One of the things we did was establish a charter, just to kind of tell everybody what we're doing. We ended up with the Strategic Planning Committee has established to guide the development and implementation of a comprehensive strategic plan for Fairfield Community School District, ensuring alignment with the district's mission, vision, and core values. This committee will provide a framework to achieve measurable improvements in student outcomes, staff development, community engagement, and organizational efficiency. That's kind of the broad strokes on what we're looking to tackle in our meetings. First thing we talked about was the bond. Sounds like almost every other committee talked about the bond also. And we just kind of talked about, this time we kind of got a larger, breadth of people that helped us get the word out, tapping back into that group, and making it larger. I think the more people that are involved with the facts and helping us spread the facts, the more people kind of take ownership of it and really help us. So that was kind of where we were talking about, I think probably similar to what you guys were talking about. Curriculum-wise, we were talking about Zach was going to have a meeting, I think maybe today, about K through 8 literacy.
Yep.
I don't know if you wanted to talk about that here. Or
I had it on my soup update, but I can do it here too.
You can do it later.
Okay.
But yeah, we just kind of talked about that. We talked about SIAC. Part of our responsibilities will be the School Improvement Action Committee. Advisory Committee. I feel like I got those the other way last time. We kind of talked about what that SIAC does. It's something that's been around for a while. The members of the Strategic Planning Committee will be interfacing with the SIAC committee, and we were talking about maybe around spring break that'll convene so we can actually talk to them. We had a discussion about AI that came from the IASB meeting that we had. So we kind of talked about policies to protect academic integrity surrounding AI. Also talked about maybe next year looking at implementing some curriculum possibly for different levels for how to use AI, what it is, what it isn't, that kind of stuff. It seems like from that meeting that we were at in IASB, it seems like AI is going to be a huge part of future jobs. Most people are going to have to interface with it at some levels, so it's something that we should look at being leaders in teaching. We talked about the possible budget reduction and just kind of around what that roadmap would look like. And yeah, that's about it. Any questions? We also talked about things we would cover in future meetings. Preschool, enrollment, marketing, those kind of topics will be in our future meetings as well.
So we covered it all.
Anything else? Strategic planning questions? All right, policy, Mark Thornton.
Yes, we met on December 6th. I think it was a Friday, if I remember back. But we just kind of laid over what the policy committee would be doing, what we're looking at. I think we all agreed that it was the coolest committee to be a part of this policy. So it's Dave, Megan, myself, and then Zach and Evan were with us when we met that day. We started talking about just setting the ground rules for some of these. So we're gonna get with Evan. He's already gonna give us a list that we have all the policies written, so we can get on our cycle again to get back caught up on making sure that we're on our 3-year reviews for those, and then other just timing things of letting us get in there and review those policies that we go through every month, so we can get a first glance at those to make sure we don't have any questions ourselves before they come to our board. And then we'll take ownership of answering questions to those. And we did talk about a couple policies that will probably be coming down the pipe at some point once we learn more about them, whether that be cell phones or AI, as Ty was mentioning, of we need to create any policies around those. I think there is some state talk about coming out with the cell phone policy of some at some point, so we'll kind of keep an eye on that to see if that's something if it does come out, if we take it or make it our own. So we'll see what that is when it comes up. And I think that's a high level what it was.
Any policy questions for Mark? Okay, thank you, guys. All right, so do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended with the removal of the Social Sprouts invoice?
So moved.
Second.
Porter and Ward. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, now we're on to public participation.
There is none.
Okay, seeing no public participation, no one in the
Correct,
room.
Oh, okay.
Did you want public participation?
What's that?
Did you want to speak?
Sure.
Okay, should I read my thing? Just, okay.
I kind of had a question, as with the transportation buses for us out in the rural area. I know my kids get on the bus at 7, and I've heard some other kids are getting on the bus at 7:15. And I was just curious if there was any thoughts on maybe doing like hubs, like Lockridge School. You have 1 or 2 buses go there. We bring the kids there at 7:30. Everyone gets on the bus there. Everyone gets off the bus there. Because I know out where I live by Glasgow, there might be 2 or 3 kids on one bus, and then there's 3 or 4 kids on another bus, and they go right by each other. Like I see it. You know, when my kids get on the bus, one bus goes by with my brother's kids that live 2 miles down the road, but my kids are on a different bus. And I kind of was wondering if maybe there'd be a way to cut cost and time if we maybe had hubs like Lockridge or a place in Libertyville, something like that. I know sometimes it might be an inconvenience as a parent having to do that, but if there's ways to kind of maybe help save money for the school district on transportation, plus having parents not having to get their kids on the bus and stay on the bus for an hour. I mean, I know there's some of us that grew up in the rural areas, and I was always the first one on the bus, first one off the bus. My kids are sleepy, they fall asleep on the bus. So that was just something I was curious about for transportation, because I think there are, is it 45 minutes is the state regulations for how long they can be on the bus, or is there anything?
60 minutes, and with the way we can do an hour 10 or up to 90.
Yeah, I just know it's getting kind of ridiculous. And like I said, I know for a fact there's just maybe a handful of kids on buses out in my area. They literally cross paths with each other on the road.
Well, thank you. I'm sure that Zach and the transportation team can connect back with you. The way we set up this public participation is we're not in a conversation with you, so we just hear your comments and then.
Right, I understand. It's
Yeah.
just something that I thought was maybe a way to maybe. I understand parents maybe need to make a little bit more sacrifices instead of expecting, you know, a bus to come clear out in the middle of nowhere where there's no other kids at. And maybe the parents need to make a little bit more sacrifices.
Can you share your name? I don't know if you know. You know.
Brad Freeman.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
Okay. Moving on to new business.
Item 7.1.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Which
I knew I was
is
going to
a
forget that. So
motion
moving on to
to-
item 7.1, it's a motion to approve
Social Sprouts.
the Social Sprouts bill
Totaling $140.
totaling $140. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
So before we vote, the reason why I did this was, went through the secretary bills. I got to this one, it's only $140, I understand it's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. But in using what I'm define as one of our core values, emotional intelligence, I went through and I clicked on the first free video. And in my estimation, it didn't meet the criteria for improving emotional intelligence of our children. I'm not certainly don't have a degree in psychology or counseling, but I think it really didn't do anything to improve our children's strength or self-reliance, how to deal with conflict and frustration. It basically talked about, in my estimation, if things don't go your way, you can throw a fit, and everybody now is on a high alert to make sure that you're comforted. And I don't think that's, as a resource for our school district, promoting emotional intelligence for our children. So that's why I asked that it be removed from the consent agenda, from the secretary bills, discussed separately, and I intend to vote to not approve it.
So this is for a single student, it looks like?
It's just a resource that the counselors can use for different things if they need to bring in some type of a lesson connected to maybe an event or multiple events that a small group of students or a single student maybe has gone through. And I think what Dave's alluding to is the My Feelings Are My Feelings video that he watched. And I watched it too, and I think, to his point, there is a sense of it's okay to have those feelings and be that way, but I didn't get the sense that it means that we have to cater to every little thing. I didn't get that same thought as I watched it. I got more of, hey, this is okay when you feel this way, but how are you going to move forward, or what are we going to do to move forward? And I think from your perspective, it was maybe, as the adults, let's try to figure out maybe a way to coddle a little bit as opposed to give ways to.
I'm sorry, but coddle really wasn't it.
Yeah.
It was, I agree that, someone's feelings should be, we should be cognizant of them, and our children should be like that. But particularly when you say, it's not fair, their birthday is they're getting more presents than it's not fair and everything else. And then instead of saying, how about focusing on them and their happiness? What about me? I just thought it was inappropriate. And I don't think in my estimation, it didn't build the emotional intelligence. Now, I didn't go through the rest of it, so I can't speak to the rest of the curriculum. And it's certainly a library video, so it's a resource. And I certainly admit that our teachers use a lot of discernment with this, and they are the professionals in the classroom and can, if they're using something like this as a resource, can tailor it to the situation. I would depend on them to do that, but I still don't think this is an appropriate tool.
Is this a one-time purchase? Is it something that we have?
I think there's a yearly fee or it's an annual. I don't honestly know how much they use it.
Yeah, so maybe it's something.
Have we used it in the past? I
that we
think.
could,
Yeah.
in the building visit, maybe there's a better opportunity.
At which building, or several buildings? Or
The lower levels.
So much difference.
So is it something potentially, like, you need to maybe have a conversation with the building leaders and see if it's something that we still utilize, or?
Well, I asked the counselors if
You
they
did?
still use it.
Okay.
And they said yes, but I didn't ask how often or what's the setting look like. So that was a few months ago. I mean, this was probably 2 months ago I asked them.
I'll say that without clicking on it and without looking into it myself, I'm going to defer to the counselors and probably vote to approve.
Any other discussion? All in favor of approving this bill for Social Sprouts? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
One opposed, Dave. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
I appreciate you looking through that.
Yeah.
And I can get a little bit more information too, just from a frequency and.
Just as a sidelight, I'm not, this is nothing against the counselors or anything else.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they use it, are discerning, and I would hope they would be discerning when they use it. So,
Let's move on to new business. Do I have a motion to approve the School Budget Review Committee SVRC request for open enrollment out, not on prior year's headcount in the amount of $271,781?
So moved.
second.
Ward and Eastburn. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Oh.
You asked for
do we-
discussion.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Discussion.
Can we step back?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Can you explain what this is for anybody?
Yeah, so this is an annual approval through the School Budget Review Committee, so every year in December, January time period, we as the district have the ability to go to Des Moines with the school budget review request. This request particularly ties to the open enrollment out, not on the prior year's head count. So what that means is if we had someone who left our district after the October 1 count dates, October 2nd last year, we had to send money that we were not planning on sending to neighboring schools. So this allows us to recoup the authority associated with that funding to prevent hardship towards the district. So it's just boosting up our authority. There's no actual cash exchange in hands. It just recognizes that, okay, we were planning on having these kids and they left mid-year.
So this is authority, not cash.
That's authority, yeah.
Any questions? All right. Now, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next motion to approve the School Budget Review Committee request for English language instruction beyond 5 years in the amount of $28,330.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
So this is also a request.
Yep, so this is another authority request to the School Budget Review Committee. We have kiddos who have not become English proficient within the 5-year standard timeline, so this provides additional authority to assist us in helping them get to the proficiency requirements.
And again, it's authority, not cash, right? Yeah.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the School Budget Review Committee modified supplemental amount of $521,106 for the at-risk and dropout prevention program for the 2025-2026 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Ward and Thornton, any discussion? This is,
I'm always curious, what does our dropout prevention look like? Like what kind of programs do we run with this money?
Oh geez, we have a bunch of things coded to dropout prevention. So we have some of our IJ programming is coded dropout prevention, our homeless liaison is coded dropout prevention, our counselors are coded to dropout prevention. We have our credit recovery program coded to at-risk and dropout prevention.
Our success coordinator.
Coordinators coded at-risk prevention. There's curriculum associated with that, hygiene supplies, anything you can dream of that could be assisting our dropouts or our potential dropouts or at-risk students.
The majority of it goes to personnel costs.
Right.
Yep.
There is some curriculum involved though. Is there like a class or
Yes.
anything that people are taking, or is this just
Credit
like
recovery, so it's the online platform that we use for credit recovery.
Ingenuity, I think is the
Yeah.
platform that we use.
Yep.
And is that 521,000? Is that the full amount, or is this like an additional that we're asking for?
Yeah, so every year, if we want to have dropout monies, we have to approve this modified supplemental amount. So this approval will grant us the authority for that risk side. And I will also toggle my budget during the certified budget time period to tax the local taxpayers to get the cash to cover that authority to carry on our at-risk program. This is actually down a little bit from last year. It's all kind of driven by per pupil enrollment, so this one did decrease a little bit. And by that I mean like $5,000 from previous years, but we usually ask for the full amount.
So this is a silo, it's not a categorical,
It's technically considered a categorical fund.
but it's not out of the general? Because I think you said that, or is it taxed within the general fund taxes?
Yeah, so there's no state aid associated with at-risk dropout. All at-risk dropout comes from the local property taxpayers, but it's a categorical fund with the revenue stream coming from the taxpayers instead of a state aid pot of money.
Gotcha.
The state sets what that is based on the number of students.
Which
And we're
is
like
200 and something.
4%, they use that percentage, right, for the dropout money?
Yeah, so it's up to 5% of your, there's a free and reduced calculation, there's a big calculation into it. So up to 5% would be the maximum at-risk and dropout prevention. Long time ago, when this formula was set up, they gave percentages based on counties or the perception of our at-risk students, and we're at 4%, so we don't get the maximized 5%.
And we can't move that now.
We cannot move that, it's been discussed every year in legislation on making that equitable for everyone, but it's yet to have any movement, it usually dies on the floor, so.
So years ago, we were set at 4, but we can't move it up to the max of 5.
Correct.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, do I have a motion to approve the budget guarantee resolution?
We have to read the resolve.
Okay. Resolved that the Board of Directors of Fairfield Community School District will levy property taxes for fiscal year 2025-2026 for the regular program budget adjustment as allowed under section 257.14 Code of Iowa.
So moved.
Ward,
Second.
Christie. Any discussion?
So this is just approving the resolution, right?
Yep, so approving this resolution does not mean that we will actually execute the budget guarantee or budget guarantee that gets decided during the budget time period. This just allows us to discuss it during the budget time period. What this really means is due to declining enrollment, districts have the opportunity to get a 1% above 100% authority on a 1-year basis to ease the downward funding. So it just gives us additional authority, not cash, to ease into a potential budget reduction up to 1% of your overall.
Did
regular
we do
program.
this last year?
Every year, most SBOs, yes, I brought it to the board last year, but we bring it to the board every year just so you have that safety net if you choose to use it during the budget time. But if we choose not to use it, I can say no right on the budget and move it forward.
So we'll still have full authority to knock it down if we want to at a later date. This will just
Correct.
give us the opportunity to discuss it.
So I just have to let the department management know as they're drafting my certified budget for next year that, hey, in January, I want to be able to potentially use this or not use it.
Is there a limit on how many times we can actually be on budget guarantee in a row?
I'm not aware of a limit. Every year when you have, there's a formula associated with it. You have to be a certain percentage or it has to be a certain dollar figure below what your new state aid would be. So if state aid came in at 5%, we might not qualify anymore. But if state aid came in below 3, 2.5, we probably potentially qualify for some, if not all of the adjustment. But no, I'm not aware of a limit of when you can get off it as long as you have declining enrollment. But it should always be a goal to try to sustain a budget, not banking on additional authority from year to year. It's meant to be a placeholder, not a permanent budget tool.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve the budget reduction realignment amount? Sorry, motion to to direct the superintendent and school business official to present a budget reduction realignment plan totaling $900,000 for the fiscal year 26.
So moved.
Second.
Give it Deborah and Ty. Any discussion? So, do you want to discuss it?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to, if this moves forward, Evan and I will craft this plan, share it with all of our stakeholders, and come to you guys with recommendations as to what that's gonna actually entail. Don't wanna dive into too many thoughts or details yet, because we wanna make sure that we get them hashed out properly before we share that publicly, but we'll send something out to our staff tomorrow, just letting them know that hopefully this passed and we can start attacking this head on.
This is just pretty much giving you approval to start that process.
Yeah.
Approval and direction.
Or directive.
Yeah.
Directive, yeah.
And this is all tied to the numbers you gave us in the past month or two of
Declining enrollment.
declining enrollment and
The
those
down
things we just
46 and the current enrollment numbers of kindergarten and projections for the next few years.
And we were targeting our financial health goals for this and making sure we had a feasible path. So this was what we discussed in our finance committee and our budget. And this was the amount that we came up with that was feasible to do to get us to our definitions of financial health.
And there was a minimum that we had to do, and there was a maximum that we could go up to, and this was kind of somewhere in the middle. So,
Yes.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, up next, board policies. To approve board policies at the second reading. Do I hear a motion to approve the board policies at the second reading?
Second.
Porter and Deborah. Any discussion on these policies? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, up next, do I hear a motion to approve the early resignation incentive as presented?
so moved.
Second.
Ward and Thornton. All right, any discussion?
Can you just kind of fill everyone in exactly what this means, Zach?
Yeah, so what will go out if this gets approved is communication to all of our certified staff. If they let us know that they're moving on for whatever reason, by mid-January, I can't remember the date exactly, if it's in there or not, I'd have to look again, but they'll get $1,500 at the end of the year when they leave, and that will allow us then, as we're working through this $900,000 reduction plan, if there's people that we know are leaving, that we wouldn't have to get to a RIF position, come April. It's just for us a way to plan a little bit more intentionally. And I know it says retirement on one of those, but that really isn't like an early retirement type of thing. It's really just an early resignation notification stipend, for lack of a better way to say it. But if somebody's 55 or older, then we can pay that out of management instead of the general fund. Tumwa's been doing this for 3 years now. They'll get 10 to 12 people a year. I don't think we'll get very many, but if we get 3 or 4, that could be really helpful in the planning process.
Is there any sort of cap on that?
As far as number,
Yeah.
I think we would probably make that decision as we go.
Yep.
We wouldn't want to have too many.
That's my point.
Yeah.
So.
We haven't like set a number though, no.
And the second piece of this that I, from the HR lens, as well, if we know we need to backfill that position, allows us to be first to market is kind of the way I do it, so we can get out of the gate early and start recruiting and hopefully retaining some high quality teachers as well. So as we're going to career fairs, we actually know kind of more of our vacancies and we start making phone calls if needed.
And I've heard the counter to this is, why would we pay people to leave? Why wouldn't we pay them to stay, right?
I get questioned pretty hard when I first saw this. What is this about?
Yeah, so in my mind, how we're working through the salary schedule discussion. If we end up going to this kind of pool type model, there's gonna be some incentives built into that for teachers that make it 2 years, that make it 5 years, that make it 10 years, that go and get more education, some one-time bonuses, so to speak. So we're looking at how we can do that intentionally for our people, and we want to keep them. So.
Okay. All those in favor of approving?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, superintendent updates.
All right. First and foremost, John, do you want to click to the next one? I don't have the clicker. I just wanted to say thank you and congratulations to all of you. Dave, I know you had to leave, so you're not in that fancy picture.
That's okay.
Maybe we could get one after with everybody with the plaque. So I just want to present this to Megan, and again, just thank you for taking time to do that. We had 4 individuals that made the 15 hours that were needed. If you want to click to the next one, we've got some solo shots there as well. Yeah, and then the last slide there, John. This is where we're currently at. So a good start since everything starts over, the beginning of November. We've already got Megan at the 16, Ty and Mark at 12, Deborah at 12, Mark and Christy at 9, and then Dave's at 3. It's okay.
Bringing up the rear.
We get a lot of them when we're there and we sign up for certain things, and since you weren't there for that second day, that's probably why. But yeah, just know again that this is something we're going to shoot for next October as well. So thank you, I appreciate it. Wanted to highlight again the work our lead learning team has been taking part in. We spent 2 more days in a coaching academy last week. We're feeling really in a good spot about what next steps look like. We've got 2 more days in February to really move forward with a professional learning community mindset as a system. So like I shared before, I'm going to be meeting with our building leadership teams. There's going to be some mission and vision examples that I'm going to share with them connected to belief, culture of collaboration, accountability, and results-minded are kind of our 4 core competencies or beliefs. And we're going to get some more input from them around that. And then we're going to identify collaborative learning team leads. Could be close to 30 individuals that I would consider teachers that are going to be learning more about this work and leading it as we start the school year next year. So there's still some more planning and communication that needs to take place, but we walked away last week from our second session in the afternoon with some good action steps moving forward. Literacy Task Force, like Ty said, we met for the first time this morning. We've got about 13 of us on that group. We're going to maybe add a couple more people and really just outline the outcome and why we got together and what our goal is with this group. We're going to meet twice a month for the sole purpose of creating a systematic K-8 literacy delivery plan. That's the goal, and it's going to be messy at times. There's going to be a lot of opinions and things that we work through, but I felt good walking away from that meeting this morning at 8 o'clock when we got done. And I'll keep you up to date as those go along. I'll share some changes. The first draft of the 25-26 calendar, I'll share just some key changes compared to this one with the board. It'll be right before break or right after. I'll meet with the calendar committee, share the same thing so we can start playing with that with the goal of getting something finalized either at the January board meeting or the February board meeting. But I've got that first draft ready to go to share with you guys. Ty alluded to this too, but SIAC, we're going to bring that group. I was able to find from a 2022 SIAC team, so I've got a bunch of names, so that's good. Maybe we'll start there. I couldn't find anything 23 or 24.
I think you said that the Portrait of a Trojan was kind of wrapped into SIAC.
Yep, and I'll compare those names to see if they're similar, with the goal of meeting for the first time spring break-ish, so we can set the tone for what it should look like, because we really should be meeting 4 times a year with very intentional outcomes with each one of those meetings. I just wanted to celebrate. We had a donation of $4,000 to pay off lunch debt this Christmas, so that was really cool. Thankful for that. And then you guys approved that $900,000 reduction directive, so that'll be some work. Obviously, Evan and I and our admin team are going to continue to navigate, and we'll present something to you as soon as we can. That's all I've got.
All right, moving on to highlights. How about we start with Ty?
Sure. Been a while since I got to go first. You just stole exactly what I was planning on saying. I didn't see the $4,000 donation in our agenda, but I saw the $2,500 donation from everybody's, which I think is just amazing and awesome. And I thank you, everybody's. School lunch debt is a weird sentence for first world country to have for their children, and I'm glad that everybody's helps us wipe that out. And whoever the $4,000 donor was too.
Yeah, just came in today.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the fact that
Donor
people
today too. That
Wow.
You probably didn't even know about.
What was it?
$1,000 donor from First Maine to help with at-risk curriculum and field trips this year.
Cool. Yeah, I love when the community steps up and helps out like that. It's awesome. We have a strong community that supports us, and I hope that continues. Yeah.
Thornton.
So it's good to hear from the kids. I'll steal that one before anybody else does. So it's cool to see all the kids coming in and telling us about their trip, and just so we can provide an opportunity like that. Now kids get to go travel all the way out there to go to the conference and learn all kinds of cool things. So that was cool to hear. And then also I'll tag on to Mallory's presentation to hear some of the stats that they're working on. And it's good just to have that visibility here now. So I know we've been working on that for a while, but just to be able to see that, hear that, again, pluses and minuses of how things are going at the buildings.
Great. Deborah.
100% Mallory being here. Of course, I love seeing the kids, but it was such a great such a great presentation of what's going on, like you said. And we have a greenhouse. How cool is that? Super excited about that.
Thanks. Dave.
Certainly, Mrs. Mann, Mallory here. I was very happy to see that. I'm glad that we're making an effort to get the kids into extracurricular and activities to attach them to the school. And there's a correlation between academics and participation and absenteeism, so I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see all the resources put into kids who are maybe behind that we can bring up to speed. And certainly I'm very pleased with the beginnings of breaking down the integrated science program to get it back to where it was. I've heard a lot of complaints about the integrated science program, so I'm very pleased that that's in place and going. So
Great.
She had a great presentation, positive.
Christy.
I will agree with a lot of what Dave said. I think just to see, the amount of progress that we're making in such a short period of time, and hearing from her, the good things happening at the high school, and the fact that she's meeting one-on-one with these students, I think is just showing like what a huge impact she's making already in our school district. So I think that's great to hear. Just really thankful for Zach and Evan. I feel like you guys are just tackling a lot of things head on and making things happen, and I think things are moving in the right direction. I think it's easy to get caught up when the bond fails and things to focus on the negative, but I think we need to just remind ourselves that we do have a lot of great things happening in our district, and just keep moving forward.
Mark.
I'll just kind of repeat a lot of what everyone said before, but the big thing I think first of all is Mallory talking about meeting with students one-on-one. That really shows what a hard worker she is and how seriously she's taking her job. For a principal taking time in the middle of the day to go tutor individual students, that's pretty incredible. How hard she works at her job. I'm also glad to see we're making the transitions in the science department. I think that's something that's needed to happen for a few years now. And then also the FFA program. I was in FFA back in high school, so anytime I get a chance to hear about everything the FFA is doing, I really enjoy that. You know, a lot of people think that's strictly, you know, kids that want to be farmers or yada yada yada. In fact, the reality is that actually has very little to do with it. It just teaches you a lot of life skills and what that does for students. That's pretty impressive. And I'm just thankful that we have a teacher. You know, this is my 4th year on the board, and this is the 4th ag teacher that we've had. So I don't think people really realize how labor intensive that job is, and I really hope Mrs. Stromstriffer's here to be for a while, because it's a lot of work. And my ag teacher was here for 17 years, but it's a job that's been turned over very aggressively in the last 15 years, and I hope that I hope people really appreciate how hard that person has to work in that job to keep that program going. So really thankful for that. So.
Great. Yeah, I really appreciated seeing the outline of the courses she's looking forward to offering, and I think that greenhouse project is really cool to kind of be able to have a start to a project and put it into like the real world. It's super valuable. Obviously, hearing from Miss Mann was amazing, just to see what they're doing and what weekly checking in and all of that. And having committees was also really cool. So I think I'm hopeful. I know in the beginning it felt like a lot of work, I think, all these meetings over the last few weeks, but I hope that allows us to tackle a little bit more and be more efficient at some point soon. So thank you guys. Where am I in the agenda? That's it, right? So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the time is 7:46 p.m.